live because I'm not on top of things today. Twos, how you doing? Holy cow!
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. Last time I had you was such a riot, so I'm like, let's do this again because I want to have
For
I
sure.
want to have this fun again. But I got to move some things around, so let's get you in here. So I got pulled into another podcast, a Twitter Spaces today, and it totally just killed everything else that I was thinking I was planning for, and
Oh yeah.
but it was a great opportunity. I was really happy to be invited into this Spaces to talk about censorship in Canada, and but if
that's just a myth. That's not happening.
yeah, that's just a myth, right? The myth of this. Who is your guest? Asks the chat. Twos, can you give a little rundown?
They don't remember me from last time?
Well, dude, that was the one night I laughed so hard. I think I woke up with a sore neck. Like, you know, the back of your neck when you're laughing so much? It just...
I mean, that was an awesome time we had. I mean, for those of you who weren't there, because it was just Clyde and I,
yes.
we stayed up most of the night drinking and chatting.
Yeah, after the live stream was over. So this is the thing. So can you tell people what you do just to get this started so people know more about you?
222 minutes. Make fun of people on Twitter. I have my own podcast, My 222 Cents. I do a weekly collaboration with Sean Newman of the Sean Newman Podcast, and we call it The Mashup. It live streams Friday mornings at 10 Alberta time, and we more or less rapid fire go through what's going on in the world.
I'm gonna get your page up here so everybody can see it, and then put the link in the chat so everybody can go check you out, give you a follow, pop you up here real quick. Here we go. Boom. Yeah, go check it out. 222 minutes on Twitter. Give them a follow. You have a link tree there, right? So you can go check out all the
Yes, I do.
places.
Everything you would be interested in checking out is there.
Awesome. So for everybody who doesn't know, you go by twos. It just makes it easier.
Yeah.
So that's that. I've got a super chat from Ravisades.
222 minutes is a little bit much.
It's a bit much. So
twos
is easy.
Yeah, it's 222 minutes if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Mm-hmm. I got a super chat from Ravisades for $5. He says, the idea that CBC and Catherine Tate are going to be the arbiter of truth is terrifying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She just fired 800 people and gave all the executives bonuses, and yet
and then tried to hide it.
Oh, and then tried to hide it. Yes, that's right.
Yes. And then when it came out that she wasn't going to be able to hide it, she wanted an extension on the access to information. And then she was just testifying in Parliament this past week, and she was saying how basically they need a lifeline. They're dying, and people should be a lot less worried about what they're doing in terms of performance bonuses.
Oh, yeah.
And more worried about giving them a reliable stream of income from the government.
Right. We should be a lot less worried about what they're doing with the money and just give them more money.
Yes. Yeah. Don't worry about what we're spending it on.
What an argument.
Just keep the train rolling.
Oh, it's just insane. It's insane. And you know what? I hope because Pierre's going to get in, I hope what he does is actually follows through with what he has to say about the CBC and about funding media organizations, funding, Globe and Mail or CTV or any of these people. Like, I think
all of them.
I don't
let them sink or swim on their own merits.
Well, that's it. I don't wish them to go under. I hope that they turn around.
I do.
Fair enough.
Fuck them all.
Fair enough.
Unequivocally.
So here's the thing. I don't want them to go under. And if they do, so be it. I just don't want to. I don't want my money being given to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody's giving me money to do what I'm doing. Nobody's giving you money to do what you're doing. So,
no, we're literally living and dying by the merits of our products, our offerings.
That's it.
Our thoughts and our perspectives. Like, I'm literally working on this one bit for the podcast right now where after the budget came out, CTV came out with this video talking about how important it is to address the income inequality gap, and exactly what it is, what the Gini index is, how it's all garbage, and how it's still presented as just its only real value is just scaring people. And the only
What's the
people
Gini
who get
index?
scared by it are those who don't understand it. And then they had these two economists on there from two different organizations, but they were saying things that don't make economic sense. So a quick Google, one of them gets a whole lot of money from the Canadian government, and the other one's funded by the first one.
They're in cahoots. They're not even. Oh, that's way too funny. What's the Gini index, by the way?
Oh, so that is GINI, not like Robin Williams rub a lamp sort of thing.
Like Guinea, the Guinea index.
But yeah, I don't know. I've always called it the Gini index. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Say GIF or GIF?
I say GIF.
Oh, okay, you are correct, my man.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Thank you. So it just says that if everybody in a country makes exactly the same amount, then you've got a Gini score of 0.
Okay.
And if one person makes all the money and everybody else makes no money, you've got a score of 1. And so everybody exists somewhere, or all countries exist somewhere between them.
So it's like a scale of 0 to 1. So it's like in point form, like it's.
Yeah. So you look at the U.S., which is the biggest economy in the world. The poorest people there are richer than 99% of the world.
Yeah.
They have one of the highest Gini scores, which is the most income inequality. But a lot of the lower ones are former USSR countries, and then 5 or 6 is Denmark, and then it just goes to other countries that you wouldn't even think of as being rich.
See, I find this.
So everybody's just equally poor.
I find this to be a giant misnomer, and this is I think it's a sophist trick that socialists love to use, and they don't like to explain this to people. That when they're talking about income inequality, or they're talking about, this class of people make this much money, and then this class make that much, and then this class makes that much, and they like to talk about the 1% and then the 0.1%, and these classes are not the same people all the time. Like, the people who are in the bottom rung are never stay there. The people who are in the middle rung never stay there, and the people who are in the top rungs almost never stay there.
Don't stay there either.
It's hilarious. It's a transient thing. Like, if you're a college student just, slinging pizzas to make your way through college, you got no experience, you're more money going out than coming in, you're going to be in the poverty level. You're considered impoverished. But you're doing all of that because you're investing in yourself. You're putting something forward.
And you're going to get there.
You're at least going to get into the middle class. If you're going to college, unless you went and got a gender studies degree, and then it's like, okay, Starbucks for the rest of your life, or whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
But like, you're going somewhere else, and like, if you're in the middle class or upper middle class and you sell a home that year, you're in the 1%. You are in the 1% that year, and you didn't get anything out of it, but you're a statistical anomaly. You're in the 1% that year.
You're a 1%er, and you're going to be up, and then the next year you're going to be down. And the only reasonable correlation you can find for income in terms of a linear effect is age.
Yes.
Generally speaking, the older you are, the more money you make.
Or just have, period. And
then also
the other misnomer I find that they try to use a lot is they conflate wealth and income. So they'll say, like, the top wealthiest people have this much, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, and, the average person only has this much per month that they bring in income. And it's like, whoa, hold on a second.
The average millionaire has $7 million, and the average wage earner only makes $50,000 a year.
Yeah, but the average millionaire I mean, what is the average millionaire? Like, for example, the guy who owns and runs the shop that I work at. On paper, his wealth is in the millions because he owns a bunch of capital. He owns this business, right? And his income, holy cow, like it's on par.
His
with
income
a lot
is
of us.
probably less than yours, and he's probably missed several paychecks over the years.
Oh yes, yeah, several.
And he's waiting for that one big payout. He's going to eventually sell the company, and then he'll be able to sail off into the sunset.
No, that sounds like a dream. I don't know. He loves what he does, so I could see him doing it until.
All right, well maybe he won't, but
just on paper,
maybe he'll sell it and then just keep working there for the next 3 years afterwards.
So the thing is, like, on paper though, he's when they would include him in that wealth thing and say, look at him, he's one of the wealthiest Canadians out there, and look at poor Clyde just making a salary from it. It's like,
yeah, and you're like,
I'm like, I never miss a paycheck.
You probably have better cash flow than he does.
Yeah, I never miss a paycheck. And that's the thing. So a lot of times people who are just employees are doing a lot better than the people who own the businesses, and that's a reality. Let me get to some of these chats here. When do we get to talk about the invasion of Canada by enemy soldiers pretending to be inept politicians, and what can be done about it before it's too late, says one WW guy. Which invasion are we talking about? Are we talking about the
invasion of inept politicians?
Inept.
I'm guessing they mean somebody like Han Dong. Like, just sorry, 1 second here.
Yeah, Doggy.
Pooch.
Doggy, chill out.
Be a good boy.
Sorry, guys. So yeah, like Jagmeet Singh is the quintessential incompetent politician, but he's born in Newfoundland, same place as Rex Murphy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, I'll have to find out what exact ones he's talking about. David FL for $5 says 4 million homes by 2031, says Freeland. That's one home per minute, 24/7, 365 until December 31st, 31. That it can't be done. It can't be done. This is
no, not even close. Or well, actually, you know what? Here's the thing: when you're dealing with project management, you can get anything done within a specific timeline if you throw enough money at it.
No.
So can it be done? Everyone's saying no, it can't.
It can't. In Canada,
it can't reasonably done.
No. Here's the thing: in Canada, we have the capacity at full tilt, and I'm talking housing boom full tilt. The market's making this happen, not the government. And the best we can do is 225,000 average homes per year.
But we could import just materials after materials. We could fly in construction people at astronomical cost. Technically, it could happen. Reasonably, no. Technically, yes.
Yeah, but they're people like people from the U.S. You're talking about? They're building houses in America.
Anywhere.
They're building houses in America.
Anywhere. I'm just saying. And if you've got a carte blanche, you can throw enough money at anything to get it done. Which is kind of something the liberals love to do.
Well,
but they also
if you
love
want
to
follow their regulations, because you're not going to get people that are familiar with the regulations in Canada putting these houses together, which is just absolutely absurd.
I mean, you had that Mike Holmes approved set of houses in Ontario or whatever, where they had to tear down a whole bunch of them because they were structurally unsound. Like 2-3-year-old house.
It's a Homes on Homes guy, right?
And it's got to get leveled.
The TV guy?
Sorry, what's that?
That's the TV guy, Homes on Homes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
You got Steven.
I got a crazy echo going on.
Do you got crazy echo happening?
Yeah.
Echo. Did I fix it?
Oh, wait. Yeah, it seems to be totally gone now.
That was
perfect.
That was my bad. Sorry about that. Stephen
Oh, that's okay.
Stephen Halliwell with the $20 super chat. No message on there, but thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Jilly Bean Live with $5 says, why censored?
Why what censored?
G1 G WGA, MAGA against NWO, boom. Why censored? I'm not sure what was being censored.
Sorry, was that WW1 WGA?
WWG1 WGA.
Yeah, that's
Maybe just a typo.
Where we go one, where we go all. That was the whole QAnon.
Oh, is that what that
That's
is?
the QAnon hashtag.
I never heard of it. I never followed the QAnon stuff.
Ooh.
Never got into that. Al Stewart with a $10 super chat says, "Don't give Freeland any ideas." Yeah, just throw money at it. Twos, don't give her any ideas. She will, because she will. She'll throw, like, I'm gonna combat this housing situation with everything you got. Twos, that's what I'm gonna do.
Just from a completely impractical project management sense, I'm saying technically you could do it. You could buy up every last scrap of lumber on the planet, and the last ones will cost exponentially more and exponentially more, and the whole thing could theoretically get done at just biblical costs.
Have you seen some of the stuff that's being posted right now? So this was a tweet that I picked up this morning. It was Darshan Maharaja. He posted this one. This is Slumlords, a screenshot from Slumlords r/Slumlords Canada, and it's the state of housing in crisis. And this is an ad for a private room for rent for $920 a month, and the ad gets into the details.
Space under bed.
Space under the bed. Just ridiculous. Sleeping under a bed. I can only stay here for sleeping from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. Plus, I have to share with 14 other people in the same unit. And it even specifically mentions it only fits a smaller person since the space below the bed is not that spacious. Such madness. This is actually happening in Canada.
When it says smaller person, is it saying midget?
No, like slender. Like slender, probably.
Okay, all right. Because, I mean, you could really get away with packing them in there if they were little people.
Oh, come on, man.
You could just oh man, you give them their own little drawer, put a nice pillow and a blanket in there, and then you could just close it up at night, open it up when it's time for them to get out. Hopefully they don't have to get up and go pee in the middle of the night.
Oh,
really, I mean,
that's awful.
That's only a little.
Only a little. But here's some of the news that's been coming out. Is this story that came out I believe this is the same story. Yeah. Canadians heading for a staggering mortgage debt bomb as renewals loom. New Bank of Canada data, and the data suggests that essentially, here's what the report says: fixed payment variable mortgage holders to get hit the hardest. In fact, the report includes that by 2026, it's anticipated that variable rate mortgage holders who have fixed payments are going to be paying 62% more at renewal than they're currently paying.
That sounds about right, because you think about it, when you got the fixed payment, the payment doesn't actually increase until your interest. So if your mortgage payment's $1,000 a month, imagine, right? And say 500 of that used to go towards the principal, but now since the rates have gone up, 1,100 of that would be going to interest. So you're essentially adding $100 onto your principal every month, because you're not paying down the principal anymore. You're not even covering your interest because you're on a fixed payment variable. So when you go to renew, the renewal is A, at a higher rate, and B, has to make up for the added principal in order for you to have the entire mortgage paid off by the end of your amortization.
So the amortization stays the same, so that the fixed payment will increase.
Yeah. So if you have a 25-year mortgage, and you end up after 5 years, when it goes up for renewal, with more principal than you had before, and also at a higher rate, you've still got to pay it off in what's now 20 years because you're 5 years into it.
That's insane. That is insane. So 62% more. And This is excuse me. This is talking about the people who bought in when they had snap emergency lower interest rates during COVID. So there was like, COVID's happening. Let's cram it even lower so people will...
let's see what kind of ticking time bombs we can just put around here that'll just blow up in a few years.
Crazy though. It's crazy, and nobody was considering any of this stuff. Everybody was in Justin Trudeau land. We're at historic low interest rates, Glenn. Who cares how much I borrow?
Yeah, that's the problem with historic lows, is that like the interest rates don't plateau. And if they're a historic low, that probably means that the next place they're going to go is up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, 5% relatively isn't that much. But when people are so close to underwater, holy hell, it's crazy.
Yeah, the one nice thing about inflation will be, presumably, that if our wages start, creeping up to keep up with it, that $2,000 or $3,000 mortgage is going to be far less of your income.
We're gonna have the Canadian peso
because the dollar is going to be so worthless.
Yeah, we're gonna have the Zimbabwe dollar in Canada. It's gonna be nuts.
Yeah.
We're gonna wipe out people's savings, but I guess Canadians don't really have savings. Like, that's not a thing in Canada.
Yeah, there's nothing to take. Inflate the shit out of everything.
Inflate everybody's debt. It's insane. Now I understand why there's so many gold bugs around. People, gold is one of those things where like it's never really changed in value much. Like when you're talking about actually like buying commodities with gold, I guess like
it doesn't really swing in value. It tracks up with inflation.
Well, yeah, that's because the value of the dollar is going down, so you can buy more dollars.
Yes,
but a few hundred years ago, you could buy a really nice tailored suit for an ounce of gold, and today you could buy a really nice tailored suit for an ounce of gold. It's just back then it was like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, back then it was like $27, but $27 is amazing, But these days, what's gold at? It's like $2,500, $3,000, something like that.
It's somewhere around there. I think last time I looked, it was 24 and change. I want to say, don't quote me on that though.
But that's I remember Ron Paul saying this. He brought a dime to the Congress to illustrate his point, and he's like, "You see this? This is a dime. This isn't a regular dime. This is a dime dating back to like 1960 whatever, right?" And he says this dime is
it was silver in it.
It's all silver. Back then, a gallon of gasoline was a dime. And today, with the value of this dime, it's still as much as this dime. It's the
gold standard.
It's the money that's
silver in this example. But yeah,
it's not these precious metals, and that's why so many people have been getting into it. It's incredible. I've been looking into it more and more. I've got GS member for 11 months saying, will Jimmy McJuggernuggets be selling Beamers in back alleys of Mumbai with Rolex ankle bracelets for his retirement? I don't know. Jimmy McJuggernuggets, incidentally, is Jimmy Dhaliwal Jagmeet Singh. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's allowed. I don't know. I keep hearing all these things about him not being allowed in India.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's never addressed them. That's the thing. If he'd have said, actually, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you hate me, but it's not true. I'd be like, okay, yeah, fair enough. But the fact that you've heard it from so many different places and he's never addressed it makes me think there's probably something to it.
Well,
but I don't really have
the thing is,
I don't know.
Well, I didn't do that much digging into it, but I did know like a bit of the, just the gist of it. And actually, I'm hoping to have Bratney on the show because she knows a lot about this stuff. So, and I was really surprised.
She's smart.
She is super smart. So I was going to have her on the show as soon as she's not feeling well. She's got a pretty hoarse voice right now. So as soon as she's feeling better, we're going to have her on the show. But
I was your backup.
No, I was
your house lights are coming on last chance at the end of the night.
Get out of here. No, that's not how things work around here. No, but she's going to come on the show because I wanted to do a segment about this Khalistani thing. And there was the guy who got assassinated in Surrey, and he was a Khalistani leader. Yep. And
he came in on an illegal passport. And then they found out he came in under an illegal passport, and they said, it's fine, you can stay anyway. this guy's an actual terrorist, and then he got murdered by a couple East Indian gangsters.
Yeah, gangsters
who were here on work visas.
So the Canadian government's trying to say that this was like the Indian government that put this on, and the more information that comes out about it, the less it sounds like that's viable. You know what I mean? It sounds like actual gangsters, like just actual gangsters. But then it calls into question, why is there gangsters moving to Canada? What is going on here? And who's
well, I mean, everybody's moving to Canada.
Well, and a lot of these guys are coming over on student visas. And it turns out
there's no criminal record checks for student visas.
That's what I found out this week. I had no idea. You don't have to have a criminal. I can't get a job at Amazon without a criminal record check. How do you get to enter the country and come in and live as a new resident of the country without a criminal record check? And some of these people are known criminals.
Yeah. It's crazy. But if we say no, we're racist.
Well, that's ridiculous.
And it is ridiculous. And the nice thing about it is that it's been so ridiculous for so long that there's enough people who have just become immune to it. They're like, I don't give a shit. Call me racist.
Yeah.
But there's still, people who work in the government who are like, well, I don't want to be labeled racist.
Well, and then that gives people a blind spot to when real racism rears its ugly head.
Yeah.
And
well, you're like, well, if everything's racism, is this actual thing that you're talking about even racism,
or
is it just your latest?
Dismiss it. You're like, that's not.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. And meanwhile, it's like,
and then you're like, really, actually, that is pretty racist,
right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, there was those guys that just they just got their settlement. There's a couple 14-year-old kids that got kicked out of their school in California because there was pictures of them wearing blackface. But as it turned out, they were all having a sleepover together, and they were wearing like a
mud mask.
The mud masks.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, as it turned out, they're just Trudeau voters.
Yeah, as it turned out, it was just Trudeau had a bunch of kids nobody knew about yet. It's kind of a family tradition. So
they do it so much they don't even know how many times they've done it.
Yeah. So they were just wearing mud masks in this picture at this sleepover, and they got expelled from their school during the whole George Floyd era.
Oh, that's
and
awful.
Then they managed to settle for $500,000 each, plus they got their tuition reimbursed, which was like $70,000 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, but did they get their time back? Reimbursement for that's ridiculous.
I don't know. You can buy quite a lot of time for $500,000, especially when it's like literally high school.
Oh, so they got $500,000 and that. Okay, yeah, okay. But
yeah,
still, I just, oh man, I can't stand this cancel culture. And I've been predicting this for a while. I was saying, because of this, there's going to be a rise of people with actual racist sentiment. Because, you go after...
Who just get a pass.
What's that?
Who just get a pass, like they sneak in under the radar kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Well, some people will just sneak in under the radar, but some people actually start fomenting racist thoughts over this. You start picking on only the white students, for example, and you single them out and you say everything's bad about you and you're privileged and that's just code for you're bad. You're gonna get a lot of people wanting to push back against that, but then they'll push too far. They'll go into the realm of
the pendulum.
Yeah, that pendulum. I've been talking about this for a while. Like the pendulum's starting to swing the other way. I remember growing up
and it's
in the 90s, and it was the Christian right that wanted to censor speech and all of that stuff. And it was the right that was the censorious group that was funded by people like George Soros and stuff like that. And now it's the left, and that pendulum's starting to swing the other way. And I'm like, let's slow it down on the way, guys. Let's slow it down on the way so it can kind of like land closer to the middle and then just kind of like...
Yeah, because right now if it swings back as far as it swung the first way, it's going to go through the damn wall, right? But you're absolutely right. Like if Footloose got made today, the bad guy would be Justin Trudeau. John Lithgow would be playing Justin Trudeau in that.
Yeah,
right. The censorship.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
the kids
it wouldn't be a
dance.
preacher. It would be like
it
your
wouldn't be a
college
preacher.
teacher.
It would be some. Yeah, it would be some lame politician being like, "Well, what do you mean you want to read books on economics? We're not going to have this in our town."
Yeah, no economics books. Here's gender identity. Some book for kids.
And then there'd be just a montage of him running around a poorly lit barn, flipping through a textbook. Well, Kenny Loggins plays in the background.
Oh man, I can't imagine like some of the classic movies if they tried to really make them today. I mean, they're trying to remake all the classics and they're ruining those,
but they're trying to make them worse. But I mean, you think about it, like how many other movies did you see when you were a kid where the bad guys, who are always the bad guys in this, are doing the exact shit that you see nowadays? RoboCop. Remember, it was the evil organization that wanted to take over all the police and handle all the policing in Detroit, and
big corporation,
and do it in a corrupt way.
Now it's DEI. It's DEI corporations trying to take over the cops, and they've got like pride police cars now. Holy cow, you're so right about that. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I should sit down and just kind of, I don't know, scroll through a bunch of classic movies and be like, okay, well, that's one that basically happened, or that same plot line happened. The evil government guy, there's never a good government guy in the movies. It's the evil government tyrant that gets taken down, right?
Yeah,
and yet we're here just like, no, government, save us, just to make all of our decisions for us, we trust you implicitly. You're like, have you guys never seen V for Vendetta?
That was a really good movie, but
it was
scary plot lines, because I mean, it's basically 1984. It's that was the like the idea of, wasn't it like, it was pretty much Ingsoc in that movie, wasn't it?
So it was
a long time ago. I watched
in the UK.
Yeah,
it was in the UK. So it was based on a graphic novel, which is also really good if you ever feel like picking it up and reading it. And it followed it fairly closely. A lot of the same shots from a lot of the same, the shots were pulled out of the comics the same way that Zack Snyder
really,
liked to do.
Very close.
Yeah. And so the idea was that they faked the virus in England to shut the whole place down and say that the government is in charge now forever.
Wow.
Anybody ever heard of anything like that?
Yeah, that was a long time ago that I watched the movie. I just know everybody was quoting it on YouTube forever. It was just like all that stuff. But so 1984 was everybody a similar plot, right? In 1984 they don't really get into how it took over, how the government took over.
No, because
but it's
the idea is that the government always is and always will be, right?
Yeah, and the party was called Ingsoc. It was English Socialist Party.
Probably it's been a while since I read 1984, so I can't remember the name of the party, but it was. But that was Ingsoc. I mean, it was slightly different. Like it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that there was that young girl that gets caught up in it. It was that guy who found the bugs in behind the wall, and everybody's spying on him, and then eventually he gets Clockwork Oranged.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers. It's not a happy ending. No, it's not a happy ending at all.
It was a futuristic novel called 1984. So if you haven't read it by this point, I take no responsibility for spoiling it for you.
Yeah, no, definitely a must read. That and Animal House, that was another interesting read. A lot more allegory in that.
I've only ever seen the movie.
I didn't even know there was a movie.
Yes.
How do they do Animal House?
It had one of the Belushi brothers. It was a National Lampoon.
What?
Toga Party?
Oh, I'm thinking Animal Farm. My bad. Not Animal House. Yeah, the Orwell book, Animal Farm.
I haven't read Animal Farm either.
So it's an allegory about like the different groups in Europe during like the whole like 40s era, and essentially like how people were coaxed in by one particular group to to see, like, tear down the farmers and then bring about this utopia. And it turns out the pigs that were trying to, they became the rulers, and they were just as bad, if not worse, than the farmers, right? So it's like a big allegory to what took place during, like, the Bolshevik Revolution and all that.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
When you were describing it.
Yeah, George Orwell was a fascinating writer, and that was his pseudonym. I can't remember what his real name was, but he wrote a lot under that name, and man, like, it wasn't supposed to be an
Very
instruction
prescient.
manual. It was really supposed to be a warning not to go down that path.
I mean, on the bright side, we finally got Justin Trudeau to read a book. On the downside, he took it far too literally.
Took it far too serious. It's like, holy cow, you don't really do that if I pulled that kind of control? Oh, wow, look at that.
Why didn't somebody suggest this to me years ago? Because it's evil? Well, is it though?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, just imagine what goes through that guy's head.
Not a lot. That's my assumption.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
that's typically my assumption on that. Eric Arthur Blair is Orwell's real name. There you go. It's in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you, Lightgiver, for that. But yeah, getting back to the housing thing, because it's a crazy situation here in Canada, and it's been a bit since we've talked. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm being affected by this whole housing situation.
Yeah, you're getting the heave ho.
I'm getting the heave ho.
I saw you mention something like that on Twitter.
Yeah, so you did see that. Yeah, so we're getting the heave ho. Owner says he wants to move.
So
back
they're
in.
just he's moving back in because it's too expensive everywhere else.
That could be the case, or he could, that's if he's being honest. If he's not being honest, he knows he can get way more money for rent for the place now because we've been in here for 10 years. And the rents.
What are the rent controls like in BC?
Well,
like, do you have to kick out the tenant before you can raise it substantially?
Well, you're not supposed to do that, and there's punishments if you do. But if you want to raise the rents, it's 4% per year. That's it. But
see,
the rents right now are like triple what we pay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it sucks, but it's good that you had a good run, I guess. I don't know.
Oh no, it totally is.
Bright side.
Run. It was great. It was great for 10 years. To keep rents pretty low. But
I'm kind of on the opposite side of that coin right now.
Oh, what's your situation?
I still had one rental property coming into this year, and I'm selling it in the next few months. And so I've had these amazing tenants who have been there for I think it's going to be 10 years in November or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Perfect tenants, wonderful tenants. But I'm just not comfortable right now with how things are going. And I shouldn't have gotten a townhouse. It really ate up the cash flow. And so I've just continually had to just put a little bit into it fairly regularly. And then now I'm at a point where I could sell it, make a little bit of money, and not worry about, like, yeah, I could up the rent a fair bit to fair market rate and, be decently cash flow positive for a while. But all it takes is one more downturn and I'm upside down on it again.
Oh, that sucks.
And I was upside down on it for a long time. So, just, hey, I can just part ways with this. It was a good run. And sure, yeah, it'll probably go to the moon in the 6 months afterwards. But
you think? I don't know.
But here's the thing: is it's a coin flip. It could also crash because I'm looking at this and I'm like, how much higher can these rents and mortgages and all this stuff possibly get before it's not even just crackheads living in tents? It's just regular folks, right? And so I'm just looking at it like it can't keep increasing. And if it's at historic highs, the next place it's going to go
historic
is down.
lows, yeah. Well, I was always thinking, because like if it wasn't for this immigration situation that we've got, if we just had the average rate of Canadians coming in, sort of thing, and the prices rise this high, and then in response to that, builders will build, because if there's high prices, builders will build.
But building starts are down all the way across Canada right now.
Down. And normally the way this sort of market would work is it goes astronomically high, and they build too much, and people are speculating and buying properties that they're not going to use and stuff like that. And then the market flips, and it goes way below the typical market value, because there's there's a surplus then afterwards. But we have this immigration situation, so it's this giant push and pull where the market's not gonna flip and send it way down.
I don't know, will it? Because regardless of the immigration demand, like there's been people who've been. There was a story 6 months ago about this family that came from the Ukraine that came to set up shop in, I want to say Ontario, but don't quote me on it.
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple months, they were like, "Fuck this! We can't afford this. This place is nothing like what we wanted it to be. Nothing like what we hoped it was going to be. We're going to go back to the war zone." And if people are moving back to war zones rather than London or Vaughan or wherever the hell else in Ontario, then how much longer before the demand just craters as well, right?
Now,
so I don't know. The point is that it's hard to tell, because there's a lot of thumbs on that scale pushing in a lot of different directions. And so because of that, I'm like, I know I might be a little bit disappointed for not leaving at the perfect time, but I'm not going to be like, oh shoot, I definitely should not have done that. And so that's why I'm getting.
I think if you're going to sell it, you're selling it at a good time, in my opinion. Because I mean, now's the time to square your books. Now's the time. You don't want to be going into this with too much debt and potentially more debt coming, as we saw coming into 2026. I don't know what your mortgage situation for that is, but
it's going to be pretty light after this sale. It's not too bad now, and it's going to be almost too little to get a mortgage at that point. So
holy cow.
I'm kind of lucky there.
Lucky, hugely lucky. So like we're not in the market, because personally, I saw this 10 years ago, and I saw the market. I'm in this little town in British Columbia going, wait, these $200,000 townhouses just doubled in price in like 3 years. Yeah, this is a bubble. I'm not getting into this market. And lo and behold, they went from 400 all the way up to $1 million, and I didn't buy in. Like, if I could have timed the market, that would have been the perfect thing to do, and then I could sell and then go do what I want with my $1 million. That I just like.
Yeah, you could just podcast from a boat.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But instead, I was like, no, I'm gonna rent and I'll ride this market out. And here we are, and I don't have that $1 million. And I still think that the market's going to crash at some point. It can't stay this high. It's crazy, but didn't time the market. I can't do it.
Well, it's not timing the market. It's time in the market, generally speaking. Like, very few people end up getting it perfectly right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just, did you buy and did you spend enough time with that asset to where it's appreciated in value sufficiently? I know, as far as timing the market and stuff like that, I used to have a whole bunch of fun, like actual money, but it was just kind of play money. And then there was a bunch of guys I worked with that had similar accounts, and we talk about what stocks we were buying and selling and whatever else. And some new guy comes in, and this is like 2011, 2012, something like that. He comes in, he's like, "Oh, hey, what are you guys talking about?" "Oh, just stocks and investments and stuff." He says, "Oh yeah, you guys ever heard of this thing called Bitcoin?"
Shut
I'm
up.
like, no, what's that? And then he tries to explain it to us, and we're like, we all just kind of stopped and looked at each other. Like, That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. And I think it was trading at somewhere around roughly 30 to 50 bucks a Bitcoin at the time.
Yeah, it was super low. I remember
Like,
I saw an ad.
$1,000.
I saw an ad from like the early 2000s or whatever, and it was for some competition. I can't remember what the competition was. It was like I think a gaming competition or something like that. And they had all these like prizes, and the fourth prize, like the consolation prize, was like 3 Bitcoin or like no, sorry, it was like it was a bunch of Bitcoin. And it was the consolation prize.
That's just the participation trophy.
That's the participation trophy.
Congratulations, you tried.
Yeah, and like
everybody
the top prize was like $1,000, but they gave away like 4 Bitcoin or something crazy. And it's just like looking back, you're like, holy cow! Had you known?
The first thing, exactly. The first thing that ever got paid for with Bitcoin was pizza delivery.
Really?
And it was several Bitcoin
for a pizza.
I can't remember exactly how many, but for one pizza, it was several Bitcoin.
Yeah, see,
I'd bake a real nice pizza for that.
This is why I have a hard time believing that Bitcoin could be used as a currency, like actually, unless the price stabilized. Because that's one of the features in a currency is that it's like if you want to actually use it as a currency, it has to be stable. People don't want something that's unstable. Of course, we're all dealing in dollars, and that's super unstable. But
at least it's got a steady downward trend to it.
It's constant. Yeah, that's funny that like 2% loss on your investment is just a normal thing. Like they want to bring interest rate or inflation down to 2%, and then if we could only just get to 2% losses on all of our savings, that would be great, and that's where we want to aim.
Well, so my understanding of it from hearing doubtful economists, I've never heard any economists that I put a lot of stock in discuss this, but the ones that I've heard talk about it, mainly like around the Bank of Canada and stuff, say that it to get into negative inflation or deflation just absolutely wreaks havoc on things. And so if you aim for just a little bit of inflation, then you got that buffer, between 2 and 0 to muck around with. But first off, can it really be that bad? And secondly, you guys suck at keeping it under 2%. So why don't you just quit mucking around?
So here's the thing. There's this big fear of deflation. And they keep saying like, oh, if we have deflation, what happens is consumers stop purchasing. They'll stop buying stuff and they'll wait until prices stabilize before they buy into stuff. It's like, tell that to the electronics market, because that's the one market where deflation has been the norm since the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think about like in today's dollars, what it costs you to buy anything back then?
Well, even month over month, year over year, you're talking about new products being, it's super innovative. If deflation was a thing that stopped consumers from buying stuff, you would have people saying, no, I'm waiting for the best TV. They would have been waiting since the 80s, because every year is a better TV.
Keeps coming along, and that giant like that giant cathode ray tube that was like 28 inches.
I had a friend who had one
that your dad just like babied and got mad anytime you were playing anywhere near it. That TV probably cost about as much as a freaking car does nowadays.
Yeah.
In today's dollars.
It's crazy. So like that,
yeah, so no
electronics is deflationary. What about LASIK eye surgery? Deflationary. It's
I'm not sure. I've got perfect eyesight. I've got to trust you on that.
Well, I haven't gone for it, so no. But I do know that LASIK eye surgery, when it first came out, it was crazy expensive, and since day one, it's been getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and
everything
and better and better.
Housing, the house you get for the amount you spend nowadays is way more. Like anybody's house of anybody we know, if you were to take that house and move it back in time 50 years, it'd be like where the king lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the
And
house.
they're like, well, I don't know.
Not the house I'm gonna be
I
moving
just
into.
really wish I had better flooring.
Yeah, not the house I'm going to be moving into. I'm going to be in like a little tiny place with my family of 4 for the summer. This is what we got to do.
Okay.
It's
You got it lined up though?
we've got it lined up, and it's really temporary. Like, I'm talking really temporary. We're going to be getting into this, and it's a downstairs suite to another house that our friends live at. And our friends are a family of 6, and they're gonna be stomping around above us.
Oh wow!
Our family of 4, and it's way out in the valley, and like a 20-minute drive to work. And I'm gonna be on like
a 20-minute drive to work.
Oh, I know. You commute. Yeah, okay.
Jesus Christ!
I'm used to
get out of here.
I'm used to like 5 minutes on my bike. Like that's what I'm at right now. No, okay, so it's out there, but like it's out there, and I'm talking like I'm gonna be on Starlink. Like it's out there.
Nice. I hear the speeds are getting pretty good on that.
Yeah.
So you're not you didn't try and negotiate to keep the studio or anything like that.
The studio's in my garage.
I know, but you didn't, say to the landlord like, "Hey, is there any way that we can cut a deal for the garage or anything like that?"
No, because I don't.
Didn't even occur to you to try.
No, I don't. I don't think he's gonna keep the place. I don't think he's moving into it. I think he's gonna sell or rent it out to somebody else for a higher price. It's typical. It's the way it's gonna go. I mean, that's kind of my thought on it. But I have to dismantle the studio. I'm like currently taking it apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. But rip the Band-Aid off, and then we're gonna be moving.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be moving to Texas. I'm gonna get into that in 1 second. A couple of super chats here. Chris for $10 says JT and Singh are trying to collapse everything to install the UN WEF neo-communist system, but knowing those two, anything they try to implement ends up failing, and their ambitions will fail. I agree with that. I think they're gonna install whatever that they can, but even if they got the thing that they want to bring about, it's gonna be a failure. Klaus Schwab, I mean, he's. I kind of look at it as like it's a cross between communism, fascism. It's a managed economy. It's what came out of China in the late 70s and into today, and they want to bring that over to us here now, and it's gonna fail there. It's gonna fail here, and at the end of the day,
you should try and get him on your show.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah. Like, has anybody ever asked him if he ever wanted to go on somebody's podcast?
I'll send him an email.
Like, well, why not?
He'll be like,
you never know.
He'll
be like,
trap door not working.
yeah, he'd just be pushing the button. But I mean, I'd have some honest questions for the guy. Like, why do you? What brought you to the conclusion that your way was better than, this thing that's killed millions of people in the past century? What makes you think that that's better than something like capitalism? And I get the fact that real capitalism has never been tried, but why not try to bring it about? Why not try and do the latest stuff with Argentina? Right? Like, if you think everything you're doing is so awesome,
I'm on board with you.
What led you down that road?
I like what's happening in Argentina, and a lot of people are rooting for them to fail, and it's like, why would you root for them to fail?
I mean, Javier Milei is doing what I would like to think would be more or less what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. You rip the Band-Aid off, and you say super high interest rates to kill the inflation. Dude, it was like 130% interest in Argentina right now. But people are coming in because the opportunities are there. So there's investors that are coming in. They don't need to take out loans. They're just coming in with capital. And they're building.
It's a bit of a long game.
it's a shorter game than all of this stuff, or it's a shorter game.
Yeah, it's a shorter game than Klaus Schwab is playing.
Well, and it's a shorter game than like the conservatives in Canada are playing. They're doing this like, we'll ease us off of the socialistic crap. You know what I mean? Let's
No.
It's the safe supply of you know?
It basically is, yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's like the, okay, we'll keep giving
safe
you
supply socialism.
Yeah, we'll keep giving you a little bit of the drug, but we're gonna try to wean you off slowly, and everybody's going, no, just give me a fix. I need that check. Give it to me. You know,
Yeah.
and the unions are going, I
They should
want
call
my 3
themselves
days.
the methadone party.
You can't make me come to work for 3 days. I want my salary, and I
That's
want it in my
insane.
jammies.
And then they're talking about it like it's some kind of a barbaric thing.
Yeah, it's
look,
barbaric to get them to come in to work 3 days
If that
a week.
job that you were at 5 days a week 5 years ago, if your job sucked that much, why haven't you quit yet?
The money, because
Exactly, the money and the benefits.
Mhm.
And here's the thing: is if every single person in PSAC quit, there would be lineups to take their jobs.
absolutely.
A cushy job where you have no deliverables, no accountability. You're basically impossible to get fired. You've got ridiculous benefits and a defined benefit pension.
Yeah.
There would be an absolute. The lineups would go around the block like they did for the passports.
The ones that they were supposed to be working
Yeah.
on. Yeah, that's right. Unbelievable. BA for $10 says, what do you need, Clyde, and where? Vancouver Island is like going back to the 80s. Values, food prices, just saying. Footloose forever. Yeah. What do I need? Well, what I need to do is here's the thing. I need to uproot my whole life. I got to uproot everything, which is, you know, all my friends, all my acquaintances, all my professional contacts throughout town here. Pull my kids out of school. This is gonna be a big thing for our family. So there's no difference between moving 50 miles or 5,000 kilometers. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you'll have to go from metric to standard wrenches.
No, no, nobody uses imperial wrenches in automotive
In
anymore.
Texas?
In automotive, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just assumed that they would staunchly refuse. Man, I had to fix my washing machine about a month ago, and parts of it. So there was some Torx bits.
Yeah.
There was some nuts that were metric and some nuts that were imperial on the same washing machine. And I was like, because you go through like the first couple, I think it was like a 9 mil and a 7 mil or something. I was using in a couple spots.
You just need.
And then
one
I
of
go to
these.
the next one, and yeah, that's
a skookum choocher, right?
Is that
there.
a cammer? Is that a cammer?
Is it a hammer?
A cammer.
What's a cammer?
A crescent wrench and a hammer.
Crescent hammer. Yeah. it's
what's the deal with the nub?
It's a special tool. So the nub,
I can tell.
The nub actually works as you could use it as like a quasi hammer, but what it does is it allows the mechanism for the adjustable part to go way up in the head, so it's longer. So you can actually get a much bigger mouth.
You get a real big bite with it.
Yeah, you get a big mouth on it. So
and it doesn't expose that that arm to get bent and banged and dinged up and not want to spool back and forth anymore.
Yeah, and unlike a crescent wrench, the other end of it is actually it's actually a 12-point, and I believe it's can't remember what size, like 3/4 or something like that. And it's the wrench is designed for miners in Northern Ontario in the nickel belt.
Children?
No. For use on Victaulic clamps. So those
oh yes, yep,
those pipes that you see everywhere. That's the only tool you'll need for them.
Are those all your sockets?
No, there's more.
That's quite a lot of sockets, and lots of them, if not all of them in the picture, are high impact.
Most
no,
most
at
of
the
them
bottom
are.
is
There's some
normal.
chromies down here. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a professional technician. I need this stuff for my living. But this is a wrench that another YouTuber made famous. A channel called AVE. Incidentally, another British Columbia guy, and yeah, he made this wrench famous.
Nice.
Calling it he's got a couple of different nicknames for it. The Swedish nut lathe, and the Skookum Choocher. There's a bunch of different names he's come up with for it.
I used to have back when I was working rigs, one of the mechanics at the company, he had I needed a filter wrench, and he's like, "Oh, here, I got one for you," and it was one that he'd made himself.
Yeah, I've got
and
a lot of those things.
He'd welded a 10 mil socket on the bottom. And I was like, why would you, like, how rich are you that you would just put a 10 mil socket of all the sockets you could pick, the one that you never have? And he's like, what do you mean never have? It's like, I got a whole drawer full of these. And he opens up one of the drawers on his toolbox, and he's got like 15 10 mil sockets in there. I'm like, that's where everybody in the world sockets go, is this guy's drawer.
They're all falling into his drawer like a pinball machine. They end up down and into the repository. That's hilarious, because that's, for people who don't know, working on cars or anything, it's always the 10 mil that disappears and you can't find it, and 3/8 just doesn't work. It just does not cut it for a 10 mil. Steve Side with $10 super chat. Have you heard of this solar flare coming that will shut down the internet? I've been seeing articles about it. I wonder if it's true or if they're just telling us what's going to happen. Yeah, you hear all of that stuff all the time. There's always,
maybe
threats of doom and invisible catastrophes. This is the whole thing. I mean,
well, there's that, but also, like, the sun isn't just a homogeneous thing. It goes through like 11-year cycles and things like that, and with the sunspots. And I'm not a huge expert on it, but it does ebb and flow as well. As constant as it looks, it's not always exactly the same. Now, having said that, I have no idea how to predict it, or
I don't think anyone
what
does.
that looks like.
I don't think anyone does.
Because, to a certain extent, like, they can say that, in roughly 8 billion years, it's going to turn supernova, and then it'll become a red giant, and it's going to go out to basically the orbit of Mars.
Right. It'll swallow the Earth, but that's a long time.
But aside from that, which is a very vague prediction and has no consequence for being wrong, although I think they've done a pretty good job of tracking the OBA, FG, KM type stars and their transitions all the way through on that plot line. So I think that's fairly easily tracked. But as far as the finer points of when it's going to flare up a little bit from day to day, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, and in what direction? I mean, it could flare up and
out.
Yeah, but in our direction, like towards us, like that's another variable that we can't predict. Chris B for 279 says, curious, why aren't you moving to Japan, Clyde? Several reasons. If I stay in an English speaking country, I can do my job. I can be a mechanic. It'd be a lot harder for me to be a technician in Japan. I can speak Japanese, but I don't read it. So that's
okay.
That's the thing. And I like my job. I want to keep my job. I like doing what I do. And another reason for Texas as well is working on cars will be a lot easier than being in the Rust Belt. Holy cow.
How's that?
No rust on cars.
They don't rust in Texas?
No.
Weird.
Yeah, cars just don't rust there. So,
well, that's cool.
Yeah, so car comes in for repairs, 30 years old, like bolt comes off.
Oh,
socket fits on it, bolt comes off.
You're gonna save so much money on acetylene.
Oh yeah, and they'll save skin off my knuckles, all of that stuff. Yeah, so I am kind of looking forward to that. And then there's a bunch of other reasons, like I really want to take the Canadian story of what's happening here to America. I want to take it to people that are, don't know much about what's happening here.
That aren't as many years down this road, but on it nonetheless.
Saying, yeah.
Hey, we're a few miles ahead of you, and this is what it looks like over here. Maybe you guys might want to turn around and go back to the last fork.
Yeah, like Trump. Don't.
Yeah,
get rid of that old guy.
Yeah, like I get the fact that there was a few of you guys that actually I saw a guy today. I was out walking the dog, and there was an older gentleman with a Trump 2024 hat walking through.
I've got one.
You wear other hats?
It's not the 2024. It's the Make America Great Again hat.
You wear hats other than that one? I only ever see you with that hat.
Not really, unless it's like a special occasion. But I have it.
Well, I don't know. It's just funny. Like whenever you get a new hat, it's like your dress hat. And you only wear it to like formal events, the black tie events and things like that, until it gets a little bit sweaty, and then it'll go down to like on the your shelf, everyday and then commuter hat, and then it'll eventually become like a yard hat.
Yeah, the yard hat for doing yard work.
Yeah, it's
the last place it goes is it becomes a shop hat. It becomes the mechanic shop hat.
Oh yeah,
that's where hats go to die.
Yeah. You had a good life. Yeah. It's the burning Viking ship for hats.
But
I had
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. No, it's total side note. Keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say, so the whole idea is if I can bring the Canadian story to Austin, where a lot of other podcasters are, I could bring the message of what's happening in Canada, because a lot of this news isn't getting out. I mean, our news is getting shut down in Canada. A lot of the information that goes out, it gets kind of filtered to Canadians by like YouTube and a lot of these online spaces, and
we're small potatoes compared to the States.
That's it. But this is a dire warning for the last hope, right? America is essentially the last hope. If they lose freedom, then everybody's hooped. And it's like, for how long? Like, is it going to be a few thousand years before freedom comes around again? And
well, I mean, think about it. Like when Rome fell, at the start of it, there was plumbing in England, in the UK.
Yeah.
And then they lost plumbing for 1,000 years.
Yes.
Like imagine you're some guy in the year like 300 and you crap in a hole and water washes it away, and then you get transported 500 years into the future and people are just crapping in bushes. And you're like, what the hell happened to you?
Yeah, civilization crumbled. That's what happened. And Elon Musk has been warning about this. He says, population collapse is probably the most single thing that could take us all out. And this all while the DEI people think we need to like reduce the population on Earth. The population's already naturally reducing tremendously. And meanwhile, politicians are going...
Birth rates are dropping right off.
They're dropping right off. And meanwhile, politicians are using this as like a, oh, well, they're dropping off and I don't want the social insurance thing to go kaput on my watch. So let's just bring in a ton of people.
Despite the fact that it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yes. Let's just bring in tons of people and that'll rescue that. And we'll keep our GDP numbers up and I'll look good. Meanwhile, they're, destroying the country with the crazy unfettered immigration.
Well, it's like you're on a boat. You're out in the middle of the ocean and there's a little hole in it. But you don't really have anything to fix it except for what you have as far as the boat goes. So you cut a slightly bigger hole in a different spot in the boat and you use that to patch the first hole. Yes. But now you've got a slightly bigger hole.
More of a problem.
So you go to a new place and you cut a slightly bigger hole than that so it'll fit over the patch. And then you just keep going and going and going and going and going. And that in a nutshell, is basically Canadian democracy.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah, we're not fixing any problems.
When you were in Japan, did you hear anything? I just saw this. I just scrolled right past it today without even thinking about asking you about it. But did you hear something about there's like 9 million empty houses in Japan right now because of their declining population?
Yeah, there's tons.
Did you see anything about that? Were people talking about it?
Well, people there aren't talking about it a lot. People know about it, and they're YouTube channels devoted to it. They go around, they'll buy up houses and renovate them and make them desirable again. Because a lot of these properties, they're older houses, and people just, they'll be in like remote locations that are inconvenient for most people. Like most people in Japan want to live in the city. They don't want to live in the countryside.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of these places are. They're out in the countryside. And so countryside of Japan is getting hit really, really hard.
So what are the main industries in the countryside? Like, is there a lot of agriculture there, or is it, some kind of...
It's mostly all agriculture. It's mostly all agriculture. Okay. So you have, like vegetable growing. It depends on the region. They grow different things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of vegetables, a lot of tea. There's like specific regions that are really well known sell worldwide for their tea. But yeah, it's mainly agriculture. And then you get closer to the cities, you'll see more industrial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And usually cities will be built around industrial stuff, and then that ends up being like the outskirts, and then metropolitan happens around that, based largely around that.
It's going to be interesting. Like, I don't know. It's not an original thought, but we're going to get to the point where no one knows how to actually do anything anymore. No one knows how to grow anything. No one knows how to build anything, because everybody just wants to live in a city, in a condo or whatever, where everything's taken care of for you. And, you just call someone to fix the plumbing. I mean, there was a whole subplot of that Panderverse episode of South Park that was just devoted to that, where the handymen become like the richest people in the world, and they fight each other in their spaceships because no one else knows how to fix the door on an oven.
Well, sign me up. Sign me up. I like spaceships. But it's true. People don't know how to do stuff, and it's sad. Like the skills that are just disappearing, literally disappearing. There's going to be people who just don't get to pass on stuff. I'm not training enough other technicians. It's just not happening. And
nope.
Like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm really good at training people, and people just aren't entering the trade. It's not getting into it. Why? It's lucrative. It's way better than coding.
Probably.
Which is going to be obsolete.
I'm not much of a coder.
Well, coding is going to get... coding is like this huge thing that they were pushing forever. And now it's going to get, replaced by AI.
AI.
That's it.
Well, I know I tried starting a business that was dealing with algorithms, and I'd built a simple generational AI in Excel that was working with this algorithm and the output of it. And I remember there was this one part of it that had me stumped for days. And I remember at one point, it was like a random Saturday. I was up late working on it, and I poured myself a glass of scotch and then accidentally drank half the bottle. And then I woke up the next morning, and I woke up the next morning and I'd solved...
just went in.
yeah, basically. But I woke up the next morning and I'd solved... I go to start working, and I'd solved the problem. And I was like, well, awesome, cool. I guess I finally got it figured out. But when ChatGPT came out and I heard that it would do programming and stuff like that, I asked it about that thing that had me just flummoxed. And it thinks for a second, and it gives me exactly what I'd built.
No way.
And so, oh yeah. Like, you just, as long as you set the parameters right and clearly define what it is that you want to do. Like, I was putting together a couple charts for my podcast. And so I had to do some index and matching in between pages. And I was like, well, how the hell did I do that? And I know that there's this one obscure page I could find that actually laid it out in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I'll just ask ChatGPT and see if that saves me a minute. And then, yep, there it is, right there, boom. And I didn't have to spend a bunch of time trying to find that exact page because there's a bunch of bad or inscrutable advice on things on the internet where you're just like, I know what I'm doing and I can't even tell what you're saying here.
Well,
so
didn't Chris Sky like look to ChatGPT to get evidence that Pierre Poilievre's wife was somehow making money off of the whole COVID thing by selling test kits?
I don't know. It sounds fantastical, but at the same time, I could totally see that end up being true.
Well, that was the thing. So he ran with this story like Pierre Poilievre's wife was profiteering from COVID and selling these test kits and blah blah blah.
And it was something that ChatGPT made up or what?
Yeah, he put in the parameters and then it told him exactly what he wanted to hear, and it wasn't true. It just wasn't true.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you do that for Microsoft Excel, you find out really quickly whether it works or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. I got a super chat from Rick Yem for $5. Well, we can hope that when Trump is president again, he will liberate Canada and lock up the dictator. That's funny because Tucker Carlson, he actually pontificated about that.
He joked about that, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, why don't we liberate Canada? And his logic was sound behind that, saying, you know, it's our neighbor. They share the longest border with the nation, and largely unprotected border. Why wouldn't they be worried about Canada becoming a communist country? Why wouldn't they be worried about that?
Yep. I mean, they worried about Cuba.
Massively worried about Cuba, like so much so that like they had the missile crisis and the embargo that's still going on till today.
In the Bay of Pigs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now this is literally their doorstep. But you're right about it being unprotected. If you go down to Police Lake on the south, the Alberta-Montana border, there's a spot where you can go on this little hike to the south, and the U.S.-Canada border is literally just a barbed wire fence as far as you can see in either direction. And there's a little gate that you can walk through and then walk down a little ways, and then you're kind of at the base of Chief Mountain.
You just made the new Roxham Road, you know that, right? There's going to be all kinds of people that are watching this podcast.
Okay, see, here's the thing is it's an easy walk from the north, but it would be an absolute bastard the rest of the way south.
Oh, really? There's no roads anywhere near?
Yeah, it's just going into straight wilderness to the south.
Okay. Yeah, because Roxham Road became what it was because there's a road that met up with another road, and then it was just like a little grass patch in between.
Yeah, and then people, well, I mean, that whole thing was crazy, though. The whole story, like you had, because it's New York that borders on Quebec there, right? If I remember correctly.
That's right.
And the nearest town, actually, the taxi cabs have like flat rates for driving people to Roxham Road printed on the side of their cabs. And then the people who were crossing illegally were complaining. So first of all, they were showing up hungry and thirsty. So then the RCMP or the Canadian government or however it worked set up like a nice little kiosk for them where they would give them refreshments. But then the people who crossed illegally were complaining because they didn't like the food. They were complaining that the free food at the illegal border crossing wasn't up to their standards.
I'm sorry. Like I have no patience for that. Like if
it's ludicrous.
You're getting a free meal, it's a free meal.
Sure.
Like don't expect it to be nice. But my issue with Roxham
Road,
that
lack of gratitude,
that sucks. And then what happens though is the RCMP bring them in, and they've committed a crime. They've entered the country illegally. So then they get a court date, and then they get released into the country, and that's it. Now, I don't go as far as some people online saying deport everybody who's not white. We've heard that recently. But if you're not Canadian and the first thing you did entering the country was commit a crime, you gotta go. Yeah. Sorry. You gotta go. It should be an immediate
like
go
literally
back.
100% of the things you have done in this country are illegal.
Yeah.
So try somewhere else.
Yeah, just try somewhere else. No, you can't come in. Now, here's an immediate solution to the Roxham Road thing that I don't know why nobody else has ever thought of it. I have an immediate...
Tasers.
No.
Dogs.
No, because they call it an irregular crossing. This is how absurd the language has become around it. It's an irregular border crossing, not an illegal border crossing, not anything.
Yeah.
It's irregular. Make it a regular border crossing. Put CBSA agents there and make it a border crossing. Because if it's a border crossing, people won't go to it because they'll be turned away.
You are a goddamn genius.
Seriously. They can fix that problem
you
away.
Literally just solved this problem. Like, yeah.
That's it.
Well done. Seriously. That is just the simplest, easiest solution, which means that no government would ever do it. But it's just elegant in its simplicity. It's perfect. It checks all the boxes. It solves the problem, but not in a predefined way.
No, it's just they don't go to the regular border crossings because they'll get turned away.
They get turned away.
Yeah, so they go to the irregular border crossing. Just make it a regular border crossing.
Yeah.
Right now they have a hut there, and it's full-time manned by RCMP. It's full-time manned by RCMP.
So
you have no
all
jurisdiction
you really need
to turn
is
them
just
away.
that arm. You just need that arm to go down, and that's the only thing you're missing.
And a booth with one guy who's a CBSA agent going, passport, please. Do you have a visa?
Yeah, just give them a stamp.
Do you have a visa? No? Oh, can't come in.
Yeah, try tomorrow. Yeah, I hear they care a lot less about that in Mexico. It's the next stop south of you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's hilarious. But yeah, no, I think that would be a simple solution. Any irregular border crossings, make them regular border crossings. Don't put RCMP there. Put border agents there, and that's it. Send people packing if they come in and they don't have a reason to enter the country.
Well, it's funny. They're claiming asylum. They're in the United States, and they're claiming asylum. What exactly is it about Utah that you don't feel safe?
Yeah. Right? yeah. There's all those Mormons, man.
They keep trying to throw all their wives at me.
They keep coming over with cookies.
I've been married 7 times in the past month. Get me out of this fucking hellhole.
So I dog on the Mormons a lot, but they're always good people. They're always nice people. I got nothing against Mormons. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I've met a few and they're very nice.
Yes.
Well, it's just like I give newfies a hard time, but they're some of the nicest, most welcoming people you could ever hope to meet.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And they tell the best stories. Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab another drink. My fridge is just outside of my reach. 1 second here.
Okay. All right. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Twos Show. You're joined by me and my guest, Clyde Do Something. We're having a great time tonight. I wish I could see the super chat right now because I would ask you guys something interesting like, where are you from, or how much do you hate the Oilers on a scale of 9 to 10?
It really was just outside of my reach here. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been having a great time with your audience here.
They're the best. They're the best. I love hanging out on these Friday night live streams. Everybody's so great. I'm looking in, one of my moderators telling me viewers are commenting that their messages are being deleted. I checked their stats. 0 deletions by mods. Let Clyde or a Discord mod know what's up if you message or okay. Yeah. So
is that like a Discord server or what?
Or
is that the live stream chat?
Yeah, viewers right now that are commenting in the live stream chat. So some people are saying that their chats have been deleted. So yeah, for anybody who's seeing that, one of my moderators, Audio Jack, he checked the log, and nobody's having their stuff deleted. I know people can delete their own messages, but that's that doesn't get added into a moderator action. I know that there's a thing like if you use certain words. Okay, G Meister also saying not deleted by me. Yeah,
were you commenting about the current conflict in the Middle East, perhaps, and it got automatically deleted from the YouTubes?
Yeah, that could be a thing. That conflict is crazy. I was speaking with Camille El Sheikh just the other day. He was the organizer who put together the 1 million person march for kids.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's not involved in any of that stuff, but he was talking about it, and he's he's Muslim. He's from Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the history of all that stuff, and he knows what's going on over there. And he was saying that these protests have, it started off as like people saying, just let's not have a war, and they wanted like a ceasefire. After what happened on October 7th, that was awful.
Mm-hmm.
But then quickly it got hijacked by essentially the same people that hijacked the BLM stuff a couple of years ago. And it's like all the same people, and they're coming out there and they're saying ridiculous things, and they're saying stuff that doesn't make sense to anybody who wants to have peace. They're saying stuff that's more agitating and causing more of a ruckus than is helping in any situation. And he was telling me that because he knows people in the movement, and he's like, there's so many people that are just backing right out and saying we want nothing to do with this anymore. And it's
nice that that's finally happening in a weird way.
Yeah, it is nice. but that's not stopping what's happening, because now it's been completely hijacked.
Well, last week, Sean and I were talking about there was 3 different pictures from, I want to say Michigan. I think Georgetown was one of them, and I can't remember the other 2. But the vast majority of the tents in the encampments were all the exact same tent.
Yeah, isn't that funny that like, why? How did they all meet at the one store and all buy the same tent or whatever?
Well, and from the 3 different cities, because you could maybe see
cities.
Yeah, like you could maybe see if there's a bunch of people that all went to Mountain Equipment Co-op together, and they had a big flash sale on one particular Coleman tent, and so everybody bought that tent, right? But what are the odds of every city having a vast majority of people having the same tent? Like, when have you ever gone camping and somebody has your exact tent or your exact camper?
Right.
They're like fingerprints.
Yeah, nobody has what we have when we show up camping. Yeah. And our stuff isn't like uncommon stuff. We bought it from Amazon. It's a Coleman tent, but none of my friends have the same tent. There's Steve's Hide here for $2 saying hijacked by communists again. And if you look at what they're waving, there's communist flags. It's like the gays for Palestine. Like, what?
Yeah. What? Yeah. That's you know what? I feel like maybe that's just a trap. Like, maybe there's some Palestinians who are like, gays for Palestine meeting. It's up on the top floor. Come check it out.
It's on the top. We're at a secret meeting on the roof. Oh man!
And then it was like, oh yeah, let's go. That sounds great. And then,
oh, that's awful. That's awful.
Yeah, and then one guy'd be like, "Thank God I brought my rainbow parachute."
It proves to me though that a lot of these people, they show up for the agitation, not for the actual thing.
Greta Thunberg just went to one of Malmo.
She did what?
Well, okay, so Malmo's on the west coast of Sweden.
Oh, I don't.
It's like the first place you stop if you take the train over from Copenhagen.
Oh, okay. I don't
Denmark.
I don't know the geography.
Okay, and so, but they had a Palestinian protest, and she's there wearing the Gaddafi garb, whatever the heck it's called. But yeah, just can't stay out of the spotlight.
And that's,
I mean,
that's
do we really think that she's? Do we?
You called it? I don't know what it's called either. But Gaddafi, I was thinking like Yasser Arafat or something. But Gaddafi's from Libya.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. Yeah. Whichever. It's not that I'm racist because I'm getting the Middle Easterns mixed up. It's that I'm getting the tyrants mixed up.
There you go. You get it.
Okay.
Hamas,
I'm not
Gaddafi,
racist. I'm
whatever.
tyrantist. Okay.
They're in the neighborhood.
So,
but
they're all dead.
and
that's what's important.
But what's crazy though is it's not about it. It's not about this. It's not about that thing. It's all these people. And I heard it said, I think it's Kareem Assad that calls people who show up to protest like perennially or annually or whenever they come out. Mm-hmm. She calls them pro wrestlers because that's what they are. They're these characters that show up to these protests. They'll just get up decked out and all the stuff, and then they do the interviews on TV, and they're just, it's like Macho Man.
They're all
Randy
trying to be Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah. Bonesaw is ready.
I like pro wrestling better. These people are crazy. Like Dina Sheriff, she got arrested. I don't know if you know who she is. Yeah. She's the crazy lady that
she is.
Yeah. And
yeah, so she started talking to the pleb initially, and then he had a couple kind of back and forth conversations with her, and she's the perfect far left person to listen to, because the more you listen to her, the more you realize that she's absolutely batshit crazy, and that you should just believe the exact opposite of everything that she thinks is true.
Yeah. Well, these people are the Yuri Bezmenov useless idiots. I don't know. Have you heard anything about Yuri Bezmenov? Do you ever listen to anything
lately? No, not for years.
Well, I don't think he's alive, but he called all of this stuff. Like, it's incredible. I think I have a video.
Oh shoot! I was thinking somebody else. Yes. Okay. Yuri Bezmenov, the old Russian guy from the 80s.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, I was thinking the gay conservative that kind of self-imploded years ago, but that's totally not the same guy. Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. This is exactly it. And even when you're looking at all these protests going on in universities right now, where it's like you infiltrate the schools, and then you infiltrate the universities, and at that point, you've just got this conveyor belt of useful idiots.
Well, here there's a short video here of him talking about the institutions that you take over. Hopefully, you can hear the audio on this.
So, on the stage of demoralization, obviously there are tendencies in each society, in each country, which are going to opposite direction from the basic moral values and principles. To take advantage of this.
I'll fix that. Give me 1 second.
But yeah, he talked about how you take over the colleges, and then once you play a slow game to gradually get solid control of the colleges, and then at that point, you more or less can control the the outlook of the future generations from there, and you've won the game.
Yeah, I'll play this clip real quick here. Maybe I'm going to put it on full screen.
So, on the stage of demoralization, obviously there are tendencies in each society, in each country, which are going to opposite direction from the basic moral values and principles. To take advantage of these movements, to capitalize on them, is the main purpose of the originator of subversion. So we have religion, we have education, we have social life, we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order.
What Gramsci had said was that we have this cultural hegemony, and this thing is like keeping out communism because it's like a force field. He says the only way to beat that is to get inside the key cultural institutions that generate this cultural hegemony, create a counter hegemony from within, and break them apart. This is cultural Marxism. And so cultural hegemony, he said, has to be beaten by infiltrating the major cultural institutions, and he named 5. Those are religion, family, education, media, and law, with a special emphasis put on education.
Education distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away.
For the next 5 years, high school students in Oregon will not need to perform proficiency tests showing mastery of reading, writing, or math in order to graduate.
I'm teaching children social studies that's not in our curriculum, teaching them things about how to be an anti-racist. I taught them about protesting. I taught them about Black Lives Matter. I taught them about Black Lives.
I'm basically applying critical theory to educational practice as critical pedagogy.
I see teaching as a very political act. When we are engaging with our students, whether it's on social justice issues.
Infuse issues around race and culture and class into the subject matter. And as a science teacher, I have to do that intentionally.
They're political groomers.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any of that.
They're grooming these kids to be political activists, to be what he calls later the useful idiots.
Useful idiots. But I feel like if he was going to see what's happening today, he would be like, this is way further than we'd ever thought it was going to be. Or way, like, it worked better than planned.
Well, the crazy part about it is that the Soviet Union's dead. It's dead.
Yeah.
But what they did was
and this thing is still happening.
Yeah, they planted the seed to make this happen. And then they died.
Yeah, it's like they set the countdown timer on the nukes, and then no one's around to shut it off anymore, and it goes off, 40 years later or whatever.
It's insane. It's insane. But like this is the reality. Like this is it's a scary reality too, right? Because can we right this ship?
Yeah, but you're gonna have to get somebody like James Lindsay, who's that guy in that video with the beard.
Yes.
You're gonna have to get somebody like him teaming up with you're gonna have to basically make the Avengers of common sense. As weird as that sounds. Like you're gonna want somebody like him combined with somebody who's a career educator like Jordan Peterson. And then you're going to want some kind of an amazing political strategist. So basically anybody but Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And then you're going to want, not that I don't think they're awesome or anything like that, but they do their own thing. And it's more just going, ramming into things rather than, solving things delicately.
For people in the chat, they're asking,
I don't know, maybe
when was this? So this was in the 80s. And this was Yuri Bezmenov. For people who don't know who he was, he was
Soviet defector.
He was a defector, and he was part of like the KGB and the he was part of the organization that put this stuff into play.
Yep.
And this is why he knew so much about it. But then he lost his love of the Soviet Union and saw through the propaganda and went, no, America's actually way better. He moved to America.
Well, I mean,
and he became an American.
Stories, yeah, of people like coming to the States for the first time, seeing a grocery store and just weeping.
That was was it Boris Yeltsin? It was the leader of Russia at the time. Sorry, that was auto playing again. I had the story up for something else that I was talking about. The leader of Russia in the late 80s. He came over and he went to a grocery store and he said to one of his compadres, he said, if the people in Russia knew that this existed, they would revolt.
They would, I imagine. Anyway, I mean, like they literally perfected recipes for bread, figuring out exactly how much sawdust you could get away with putting into it.
That's what China does. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what we do with shredded cheese nowadays. If you ever want to look at the ingredients on some of them. Actually, I think they might have changed that now.
Oh, really? Just trying to get what can they legally feed you without your knowledge?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's awful.
There was a thing a few years ago where
eat fresh
the
food,
bags
people.
of shredded cheese. Because you know how like shredded cheese in the bag doesn't melt the same way as cheese that you shred.
Really? I never buy shredded cheese because it costs more money.
Anyway, I don't like getting it's a household dispute we have here, where we're in divided factions.
Okay.
But it so if you were to take, I don't know, just like a frying pan and put a pile of shredded cheese that you shredded yourself next to a cheese that you got from a shredded cheese bag, the shredded cheese bag would melt way slower because there's not nearly as much moisture in it.
Oh, that's why it can stay shredded and it doesn't clump up.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah. I mean, I imagine there's a bunch of reasons, but I'd have to look this up. But apparently, way back in the day, at least, they would cut it with sawdust, basically.
Oh, what? So what my wife does, she'll if she wants shredded cheese in a bag, she'll shred cheese,
and put it in a bag.
It's not that
simple.
simple.
Like
No.
what normal people do.
Oh, okay, well you do that, and then immediately the shredded cheese clumps up, and it just becomes balls of cheese.
Depending on the cheese, like if you did something like if you had a nice fresh mutts, it would probably absolutely do that, right? But I mean, if you had an old cheddar, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million different cheeses with all kinds of different textures and moisture contents and things like that.
So what my wife
Which
does
is-
though is she'll take the ones that clump, and instead she'll put it on a baking tray and then put it in the freezer, and then once it's frozen, then stick it in a bag and put it back in the freezer.
Yep.
And then it's shredded and it
'cause
stays separated.
Yeah. That's quite clever, actually. And I mean, frozen cheese keeps, like, if you just shred a bunch and freeze it because it's about to go bad, it keeps just like anything else you put in the freezer.
Yeah, it really does. It's incidentally it's the same thing if you make anything and you want it to be like separate items. You freeze them on a tray first before you put them in a bag, or else you just get this frozen like giant nugget
Clump
thing. Like, don't put pierogies in the freezer if you made them, or gnocchi or anything.
No, homemade pierogies. You freeze them all on that tray, and then you take them out and put them in the bag afterwards.
Or else you're suffering. You're suffering when you go to eat them later.
Do you guys do homemade pierogies at your house?
I've done them. It's not like a normal, like an all the time thing. But my wife does. She does gyoza. I mean, they're like Asian pierogies. Mm-hmm. Same thing. They kind of look like dim sum or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's. I was just thinking, like, yeah, I don't know if you're Ukrainian or not, or Polish or anything like that, but like, I don't know, where I grew up, everybody had pierogies all the time.
Oh, really?
You had to, you had to drive thousands of miles in any direction to find somebody who wasn't German, Ukrainian, or Polish.
So when I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, like my family back, my mom's Scottish. She immigrated as a kid, and my dad's American, and his side's from England, or but in Windsor, there's like huge multicultural population there. So it's like people are just from everywhere. So there's like all these different towns, and then there's cultural centers and stuff. But there's this one church you could go to, and they did pierogies on Wednesday, and it was just like a bunch of old like Ukrainian or Polish, I don't remember what, but these grannies, and they just go in there and they make a ton of pierogies, and it was all just for the church so that the church could raise money. And man, they were amazing, and they were so good. Holy cow. And they'd have all kinds of different flavors and stuff, and knock your socks off. Yeah.
There's a few hole in the wall places in Calgary where you could go and get homemade pierogies, and they're the same kind of idea. Didn't Windsor used to be called New Berlin?
What? No, I don't think so. Really? So Windsor's made up of a bunch of different towns. Like there's Walkerville, there's Riverside, there's Tecumseh, a bunch of different towns, and then they all became Windsor at one point.
Kitchener. Kitchener.
Oh, Kitchener was New Berlin. Oh, that explains all the beer they make there.
Yeah. Or it was Berlin, actually. It wasn't New Berlin. I guess I was wrong about that part.
Because the ones that used to live in Berlin, they're like, that one doesn't exist to us anymore. It's done to us. It's dead to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, weird timing, but in 1916, they changed the name. I wonder if there was anything interesting going on at that time that might have prompted that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a giant conflict.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, holy cow. Like, you think that our politicians would know the history of the world and not invite a Waffen SS to the parliament?
Well, it was really funny because as soon as I saw it playing out, I'm like, wait a sec. And then you could kind of see, so Anthony Rota used to be the speaker before Greg Fergus took over for him. He's the current speaker. But you could see that it was like in Simpsons, where Bart Simpson's playing that video for Lisa. And he's like, if you pause it right here, you can see the exact moment where his heart breaks.
Yes.
And if you watch that video of Anthony Rota, he's introducing this Nazi in Parliament, and he's like, and this fighter who fought the Russians in World War II.
Our allies in the war.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, so Russia was on our team in World War II. So if he was fighting the Russians in World War II, that would meant that he was
oh boy.
And you could see that. You could see all of that play out in that brief little pause, that tiny little flicker. He's like, every once in a while where you'll see some movie where the bad guy is looking at the bomb 2 seconds before it blows up. Like some of them go in different ways, but every once in a while, that bomb ends up that they sent out to the good guy, but then the good guy somehow turns it around and sends it back to him, and he sees that bomb right before it blows up, like in Law Abiding Citizen.
And you just see it like the relaxed moment. It's just like he's like tense, and
where they're just like, yeah, I'm dead. We got to see that happen in real life, Clyde. That was history.
That was it. He knew at that moment that he was gonna have to fall on that sword too.
Yeah.
And he did.
It's so weird. Okay, because first off, it's strange to have Trudeau throw a man under the bus. Like, he's done it to a half dozen different women.
Yeah, yes.
And it's very rare for him to have a man get thrown under the bus. He did it with Bill Morneau, I think, was the only other guy.
When he did it with
and there's
what was his name? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Because there's so many of them. That's why, Clyde.
Holy cow! I don't understand why I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. The Attorney General guy, the guy that took over for Jody Wilson.
The Attorney General was Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Yeah, but the one who took over for her, David Lametti.
Oh, shoot. Yes,
the guy who did go along with what he wanted. And did it, and he tried justifying the Emergencies Act and all that, and then as soon as the Emergencies Act was found unjustifiable, he shifted him out of cabinet, and then there was this whole I'm just
not even a demotion, just all the way out,
and then it was like a quiet under the bus. It was less spectacular than all the others.
It was not all the others. I would say the least fanfare was when they very quietly closed the cabinet position of Minister for the Middle Class.
That's a ministry. David in the chat is saying Mendicino, and he threw Mendicino under the bus too.
Marco Mendicino, yeah. But Marco Mendicino still works there, right? He got to keep his job at least.
He's still a minister. He didn't resign.
He's still an MP, I think.
Yeah.
But but it's well, that's the problem with this stuff. There's been so many of them, it's hard to keep track, really.
Man.
And like I feel like we need a song, like that Animaniac song about all the different countries.
Yes.
We need something like that for all the Trudeau scandals.
Really, we do.
And it would be like 4 minutes long. But
I had one from Marty. I'll try to pull this up. Where he
did he come up with the song?
No, he didn't come up with a song, but he had a whole list of all these different things. Where is it? Right here. So it says he says mainstream media inviting a Nazi to the House of Commons. Check. Trudeau dressed in blackface. Check. $80 million arrive scam. Check. Opioid epidemic. Check. 40-year high interest rates. Check. $1.3 trillion debt. Check. People in remand for 2 years without trial. Check. Grown men walking naked in the streets. Check. Trans community grooming children. Check. Chinese interference in elections. Check. Calling Trudeau a wacko. That's going too far.
And that's basically how the mainstream media try to paint it, despite the fact that wacko gets used in Parliament fairly often, because there's a lot of words you can't say, because there's so many words you can't say. Like, you can't say somebody's a dipshit in Parliament. Whether they are or not. And so when they want to say something
Speaker,
like that,
it's factual that my colleague on the other side is a dipshit.
Well, I mean, there was one time when Michelle Rempel she said something about how, I don't know, something stinks like a fart, or I don't know, something like it's gone like a fart in the wind, or something like that. Anyway.
Okay. Well,
and then Elizabeth May jumps in and she's like, I'd like to bring a point of order about the unparliamentary language.
Oh heavens!
That the member opposite used.
Heavens.
And then she's like, the word was fart.
Oh no!
Like,
Are you kidding me? Really? Like a fart in the wind. It's an expression that just means, oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a whole lot of things you can't say in Parliament, and so wacko tends to get used fairly often. But when the Conservatives do it, it's bad.
That's more dramatic than Italian soccer. Angela Cordoso, member for 6 months, says if it took the senator 15 minutes to read off all Trudeau's corruption, the song would be, I'd say, between 5 and 8 minutes long. So there was a senator. Did you see that clip where the senator?
Yeah, Leo Houskakos, or I don't know. He's got an interesting name that I've never heard said out loud. But yeah,
like Greek or something like that.
Something, I think that's probably pretty close. But I'm not sure. He's a senator from Alberta.
Okay.
And yeah, he read them all off. And it was a magnum opus.
Yeah. Well, I saw that the amazing Zoltan on Twitter, he put together a cut of it because it went on for so long. And his cut of it was still like close to 10 minutes. Like, that's how long it went.
But that's the thing. And then you get immune to this stuff. Like, you just found out Randy Bissonnette, who is a member of Parliament in Edmonton, and he's minister of some stupid fucking thing. Because, I mean, they all are. It just came out that when he did his disclosure of financials and assets and everything like that, when he became a member of Parliament, he disclosed the number of the corporation that he had, but he didn't disclose the name of it. And then that name, that company is being held in trust by somebody else, but that company has gotten several $1 million worth of contracts. And so, he's like, well, I disclosed it. I mean, I said it was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Alberta Limited. You're like, yeah, but no one's going to know what that is unless they accidentally stumbled across it, which is apparently what happened.
Oh, and then it turns out Anita Anand, or however you pronounce her name, she was doing exactly what Chris Sky accused Pierre Poilievre's wife of doing. She was
so
selling
her husband
PPE
got the ventilator contract
and all that stuff, and that's just wrong. And the ventilators,
super wrong.
The ventilators, they didn't even use them. They sat in warehouse, and then they tried to. What did they?
And then they sold them for scrap. Yeah. They were, I don't know, a couple $100 or something like that new, and they sold them for like $20 a piece. And the people who bought them had to like take the wrapping off of them because they'd never even been opened.
That's ridiculous. And meanwhile, there was like a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information request in British Columbia after, they told us that there's not enough hospital beds, so we need to like lock down, and it's going to be a big thing. And the Freedom of Information requests asked how many beds were made, new beds were made afterwards. And then also how many beds were used during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, the bed numbers being used went down. And then it turns out afterwards, after we've been told there's not enough beds, that we need more beds, they didn't make a single one.
Well, I mean, look at Chris Cuomo. So the guy who used to be at CNN got fired because he sucked, and also got a little bit handsy, if I recall correctly.
Fredo? They nicknamed him Fredo?
Maybe. I don't know. He
after like Fredo Corleone.
yeah. Godfather 2, right?
Yeah.
I know it was you, Fredo, and it broke my heart. But this guy, he is dealing with issues from COVID, and he's now on ivermectin.
Yeah. He's on horse paste. Is he on horse paste?
He's on horse paste.
Please tell me he's not on horse paste.
He's on horse paste, dude. If I'm lying,
that's an animal drug. That's only ever used for animals. They never approved that for human consumption, did they? Tell me, Tues. Did they ever approve that for human consumption?
No. He's literally just it's like toothpaste but made out of horses, and that's what he's doing. And he thinks it's going to magically solve his COVID. And then I hear next week he's going to inject himself with bleach.
Oh, nobody ever said that.
No,
which is crazy.
But he seriously, I know nobody ever said that, right? But he literally just said the other day that he's taking ivermectin. I coined a phrase about a month ago. I call it, wait for this, every time one of these things comes out where it's like, oh, we were right all along, I call it co-vindication.
Co-vindication. I like that. You know what? One of the craziest stories that I heard during the early COVID days, when they were trying,
was that people were welding their doors shut, or that it was killing people.
Well, that was China.
Or that the vaccine worked, or that it came from a wet market.
right.
Or that we had to stay 6 feet apart.
No.
Or that masks were effective.
One of the stories that came out of the U.S. that like, I don't know if many people have talked about this since, but there was, so Donald Trump came out and he said that hydroxychloroquine might be promising, that some doctors, he really just talks off the cuff. He hears a briefing and then he comes out and he's just like, okay, here's is the deal. We're going to talk about what I heard in this briefing.
It's going to be the best. Honestly, it's going to make the COVID virus cry like a little girl.
And frankly, it will.
It's going to be like a little
frankly,
girl.
it will. I heard it cry. So he comes out and he says that, it sounds like promising that hydroxychloroquine could be a thing, right, for treating this. He talked about a few other things.
And that was all it took?
All it took. But here's a crazy story. So a story comes out where guy dies from taking hydroxychloroquine. So the media runs with the story. Guy dies taking hydroxychloroquine. And then they just wanted those headlines, right? But then the story gets deeper. Twos, listen. The guy...
Was this the aquarium guy?
Yes. So the guy...
Okay, tell everybody else in case they don't know.
Right, so...
And I'll pretend like I'm hearing it for the first time.
So this guy, he didn't die from taking hydroxychloroquine. He didn't just happen to have hydroxychloroquine hanging around. No. He had an aquarium, and there's an aquarium cleaner that has listed on the ingredients hydroxychloroquine as like a list of all the other ingredients. and his wife convinces him that he should take it, right? Convinces him that he should take it, and claims that she heard it from Donald Trump that he should take this, and that's why, you know, he should be taking it.
Yep.
He takes it and dies. He takes it and dies.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you know? You eat tank cleaner and you die.
Drano that contains hydroxychloroquine.
Right. But the plot gets thicker. The plot gets so much thicker. Holy cow, this woman was not a Trump fan. It turns out she was actually a very active user and a very big Trump derangement syndrome character on social media. And she's all over the place. But incidentally, she also hated her husband. Oh, I'm not kidding. She also hated her husband and was very vocal about how much she hated her husband. And turns out she used this as an excuse to feed her husband.
To trick him into committing suicide.
Yeah, feed her husband this Drano, essentially. He gets offed, and then she can go on social media and say, Trump made me do it! Or Trump made my husband do this thing. And
she doesn't have to deal with her husband she hates anymore.
Holy cow. Right?
That's fucking dark.
So the woman got arrested, and I don't know where it's at yet anymore, but like, holy hell. Like,
wow.
How crazy is that?
Okay, I mean, like, and stuff like that happens. Like, okay, so evening walk with the dog. It's me, the dog, and Mrs. Twos. We're walking down the street, and she kind of bumps me a little bit playfully, and I just give her this playful little push, like just a little offhanded thing. But she moved to the side a little bit, but the grass was up higher than the sidewalk, and so she trips on it and falls into somebody's yard. And like, okay, well, now I feel kind of silly or whatever else. Yeah. And then we're just kind of joking back and forth afterwards. And she goes to like try and kick me in the butt, but I lift my leg up, and then she trips and just does a face plant onto the cement.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, honey. And she's like, get away from me, you prick. And like, just then there's this other couple walking by with their dog. And I'm like, this whole town thinks I beat my wife now.
How unfortunate. How unfortunate. Oh no, that's brutal.
Oh, like, really, she's okay. She just fell. Yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah. She just tripped down the stairs. Oh man.
Oh
man. Oh, brutal. Oh, great way to get yourself painted as a horrible guy.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that making its way around the coffee row. I always knew there was something off about that guy.
Oh. Was Mrs. Two's all right?
Yeah, she's good. You know, a little bit scraped up, but once she got over the shock of it, we were both laughing about it. I had to wait till she started laughing about it before I could.
Oh, it's like when your kid falls and you're like, how do I react? You know?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Oh. And it's like, because you know how like kids sometimes when they go through growth spurts and they think that they're now bigger than you, even though they're like up to here, and they'll try and like crash into you.
Yeah.
And you just kind of turn and then they bounce off and fall down. But then if they fall down the wrong way, you're like, what do we got for cameras around here? Right? Like, do I need to do a quick heist of the recorder room?
Well, I was more thinking of like, how do you react? You know, because like when your kid falls over, if you're like, oh, are you all right? Then here comes the waterworks, right?
Yeah. But if you're like, oh, you're fine, and then they've got a bone sticking out of their arm and they don't want to tell you about it, then you kind of feel like a jerk afterwards.
Yeah, you do. You would. You absolutely would. Oh man, that's a situation I don't want to get myself into. But yeah, no, that's the thing. like childhood trauma. Dad said I was fine. You know.
But I mean, we've all got those stories. We're like, oh yeah, just rub it in dirt.
When I was 8 years old, I was it was tobogganing, and it was like in this church parking lot where they pile all the snow,
Nice.
right? And then, I'm just like, I'm out there with some friends, and we're just, trying to slide down this thing. Anyway, I fell down this thing, and I landed on my wrist really weird, just like, and it hurt like so bad. Started getting all swollen. I go home and I'm crying, and my siblings, because I'm the youngest of 8 kids, right? All my siblings.
Oh yeah, so no sympathy.
They're like, I was like, I think it's broken. They're like, if it was broken, you'd be crying a lot harder than that, right? And I'm like, I think it's really broken. Turns out I broke my wrist. Like I full on broke my wrist. I had to be in a cast for like 6 months because of it. But yeah, no sympathy, none.
No.
I'll never
siblings
forget
are
that.
just the worst. Except for mine. Mine are awesome if they're listening.
Yeah, if they're listening.
But if they're not, seriously, what a bunch of jerks.
Oh man, yeah, no. Siblings are what they are, right? You're gonna have your favorites and the ones that treated you terribly.
Oh no, they're good. They're good. I'm just busting chops, right? But yeah.
All right, we've been going for 3 hours. This is how it goes. I'm gonna end the live stream, and we're gonna hang out and drink beers probably for the rest of the night. But I want to thank everybody that's come in and hung out with us this evening. And this is one of those extra long live streams. But of course, Twos, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Man, I'm so glad you had me back. I was, I've been wanting to catch up with you. I knew you were getting back from Japan, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I was just thinking to myself, like, I got to reach out to him right away. And then the phone rings, and it's Clyde's son. And I'm like, nice. And it just worked out perfect.
Let's do this.
I was glad you reached out.
I gotta get this on the screen there for everybody who wants to follow you. Definitely get over there and give a follow, especially on Twitter. 222 minutes. Go check out the link tree. You can get all the podcasts. They're all available. When are you coming to YouTube, my man? I've been trying to bug you to do this.
Okay, so it's funny. So as of basically just a month ago, I kind of changed my work schedule around so that I've got more time to work on podcast stuff. But the older versions of this were all audio, and so I've started doing more video. And so if you were to look up, I've only done one video because I keep, it's such a learning curve to throw all this extra stuff in terms of putting videos together and splicing things. And so it's annoying because I've spent more time learning than I have actually making.
Right.
But if you go to at Tuesday Mashup at 2SDAY at 2SDAYMASHUP at Tuesday Mashup, we have
what on
38
Twitter?
Videos and
or on
YouTube. So it's where we put all the live streams for the Tuesday Mashup, which is now just the Mashup. And so I did one video that it's called The NDP Are Not a Serious Party #1. And it's got hardly anybody that's even looked at it because basically just getting started on YouTube. But it's up there from a couple weeks ago. So you can check that out and see what the solo stuff looks like. And it's also got all our live streams for the past, I don't know, 20 or 30 live streams.
I'm guessing this is the one, so I'll put
yes, that is exactly it. And on the right-hand side there, that picture of that weird dude squinting, that's Gil McGowan, the president of the Alberta Federation of Labor, who's running for the Liberal Party or for the NDP in Alberta. And he's an idiot. And I break it down in slow motion.
Oh, perfect. I got a super chat for $2 from Peter Witten. Says, thanks, Clyde. I wish I had more to give. Thank you. Cheers. Oh man, just hit the like button. That's enough for me. But thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And here's the link in the chat for everybody. Go check this out, because Twos is going to start doing YouTube videos every day, twice a day, like I do. And
give it a little bit of time first, but I'm working on
it. Looking forward to it. Everybody, thanks for joining in. And as always, hey, keep on trucking.